Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi.
All right. At the end, we have to talk about Motzi Shabbos. Please remind me so we can learn after Shabbos. But I also have a rabbinic conference, Motzi Shabbos. We had one last night, but so many things are happening that we've been meeting almost every night on the phone. That is. So we'll figure it out at the end. So in a little while, hopefully, we have more people learning. Okay. So to add to our confusion, Rabbi Isai, so we're going to learn about Hanukkah today. All right. So this is the beginning of the sugya of Hanukkah in Perek Bameh Madlikin. So in case we're not mixed up enough, it's going to feel like Hanukkah by the time we're finished. Not only Hanukkah, but Shabbos Hanukkah. That's what it's all about. So we're starting with Tanu Rabbanon, Daf Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, the top line. Tanu Rabbanon, all right? Top line, Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, 21a. Tanu Rabbanon. We learned in a Brisa called Elu She'omru Ein Madlikim Ben B'Shabbos. So now this Brisa adds to our Mishnah. So the Brisa says that all of these wicks, the different types of wicks that you can't use on Shabbos, so called Kolel She'omru Ein Madlikim Ben B'Shabbos, Avol Oisim Medura. So you can't use it in a like a lamp or like what we would call a lantern or a candle, but you can make a big flame like a big fire for Shabbos. Oisim Medura. Ben l'scham kenegda. You could use it for heat. Or ben l'shtamish lo'ora for light. Ben al gabi karka. Ben al gabi kira. You can put it on the floor or on top of the stove. Now over here, there's a girsa. The Gra on the side, if you take a look, brings from the Rif that he says not Kira but Menorah. So I'm nobody that the Gra doesn't need me, but to me it makes a lot of sense what the Gra says, because it doesn't make so much sense. It seems to me that Ben al Gabi Kira, Ben al Gabi Karka, Ben al Gabi Kira. But the menorah makes a lot of sense. But okay, either way it goes. Now, for Le'asu, so when did the Chacham say you can't use these wicks? Elo lasses mem psilul and bilvad. So what were they worried about? Because on Shabbos, if something doesn't kindle well, remember we learned this yesterday, but I'll go over it again. If there's a light that's not burning well, we're going to be inclined to do something about it. We'll forget, we'll be learning, we'll be engrossed in our learning, and we'll tilt the nair. And that is us. Remember we said that even Reb Tarfon said, you're not allowed to learn La'or Haner because you might tilt it. And Reb Tarfon said, no, I'm not worried about it. Then he almost tilted it. One opinion was that he did tilt it because even Reb Tarfon made that mistake. So it's a very, very real problem. Now, then the Mishnah had said, V'loi v'shem and kik. We didn't know what shem and kik is. My shem and kik. I said, what is that? I'll tell you a beautiful shot, if I remember correctly, from Rav Kook's Zatzal. It's in Rav Kook's Siddur, by the way, by Bameh Madlikin. If anybody has it at home, I couldn't find it right now, but I'll tell you from memory. What is shem and kik? So Amar Shmuel said, Shaltin l'chol nechoseyama. I asked all the sailors because, he thought that this was something that, when you travel a lot, and it comes from different countries, the sailors will know about it. So they told me, they told me, on the seaside cities, so there's a bird, the kik shemai. The name of the bird is kik, and when they shech the bird or they kill the bird, I don't think it's an edible bird. So they use its oil. So that was the shemen kik, the oil of a kik bird. Rav Yitzchak Bered, Rav Yehudah Amar said Mishcha de Kaza, that's cottonseed oil. Reish Lakish Amikikaya in the Yaina. That's where Rav Kook comes in. Kook, kik, very interesting. So Reish Lakish said Kikaya in the Yaina. That's, if you remember, at the end of Sefer Yonah, which we lane on Yom Kippur afternoon by Mincha. So it says that Yonah was upset that he lost his kikayan. So it was a kikayan. So Rashi and others say that that's a certain kind of a leaf. It's a very large leaf. It was very hot, and the leaf was protecting Yonah. So Yonah was very upset. So Yonah didn't want to go and give Musar to the people of Nineveh. So he was a tzaddik because Yonah was a Navi. He was afraid that if he gives them Musar and the Goyim listen and we Jews don't listen, so it's going to make us look bad. So he didn't want to go and give them Musar. So Hashem said, what do you mean? These are people that I created. So he said, you were upset about a little leaf because it was giving you you shade, and you felt terrible that you lost your shade. He said, I shouldn't feel bad about the people that I created. These are Maseh Yadai. These are the people that I created. So Rav Kook goes into a whole thing that this has to do with. It says you can't use shem and kick. Why? Because that would signify that the oil is like the kikayan of Yonah, which disappeared. So the shem and kick also disappears. It doesn't work very well. But the deeper pshat, if I remember correctly, that Rav Kook says, and I think his son brings this down, like Kook, kick, it spoke to him, to Rav Kook, this thing, that the kikayan, the Yonah, is a lesson to all of us that we should care about every human being. Rav Kook was very much of a universalist. He held that we have obligations to the Jews and to the non-Jews, more to the Jews than to the non-Jews. We have to care about them also, and that's what we learn out from Yonah. And this is kikayan the Yonah. So that's why you can't use it on Shabbos, because Shabbos also was originally given to all of mankind. Kadosh Baruch Hu rested before there were even Jews. Okay, hold shot. Amar Rabbi Bar Chana said, "L'didi chazili." He saw this. Now, if you remember Rabbi Bar Chana, we'll have it again. Shots goes around and around. But if you remember in Bava Basra, there's an entire section called the Agaditas of Rabbi Bar Chana. They're very wild-sounding Agaditas, even though the Maharsha says you have to believe that every one of them happened. But there's a big shot that it's not real. It's not literal. They're all metaphoric. So you have to believe in the metaphor, not in the story. But anyway, Rabbi Bar Chana was also a traveler, and he saw many things, like before the sailors that saw the Shem and Kick, and he said, I saw the Kikayan of Yaina. And what was it? It looked like a very large plant, like what I described it before, these large leaves that can give you shade. And it grows from the moisture in swamps and ponds and places where there's a lot of these big plants. Now, and in the olden days, remember we had this in the Gemara earlier, that the people that had stores, so right outside the store they had benches, and when there were no customers, they would sit outside. Inside they sat to sell their wares, and outside they sat under the kikayin. They sat under these leaves that gave them shade. And from the kernels of those leaves, they made an oil. And under these branches, so the sick people who used to sit outside for fresh air, so they used to sit there and they used its shade. Okay, Mepharshim discuss, if we have a chance at the very end, why we need to know all these things. So now the Gemara is going to talk about all of these things that we're not allowed to use. Why not? Amar Rabba. So all of these wicks that you can't use on Shabbos, why not? So the answer is because it doesn't produce a good flame. The flame flickers, and a person would forget about that it's Shabbos, and he'll reach out and he'll tilt it to fix it. What about, that's the wicks. What about the oils? But what about the oils? So ultimately it's the same gzeira. The gzeira is that it's not going to burn well, but it's for different reasons. The psilois, the wicks, so they bechlal, the light is not going to be a good light. It's going to flicker. We're going to try to fix it. And the oil, so this oil, it just is not drawn into the wick. So therefore you don't get any light at all. That's what some of Farshim learned, that the problem with the oil is even worse than the problem with the wicks. So anyways, the Gemara says, so we have to remember for the rest of the Gemara that Abaye was a Talmud of Rabbah, but he's also sometimes argued with his Rabbi. So so he said like this, we learned before in the Mishnah, that the oils and right now we're just talking about the oils, not the wicks yet. The oils that the Chacham said you can't light with them on Shabbos. So mahu. So what's the halacha? Sheyitin l'teichen shemen kolshu v'yadlik. So can you put a little bit of the bad oil with the good oil? So in other words, let's say you have bad oil. Can you put in a little bit of good oil, and the good oil will schlep along the bad oil? So are we worried that you're only going to use the bad oil or low? That was Abaya's question to his Rebbe, Rabba. Are we worried that you're going to use only the bad oil if you use a little bit of bad oil and good oil? So Amalei, ein madlikin. So Rabbi told Abaye that no, we're not allowed to do it. So Abaye asked him, my timer, why not? Rebbe, what's the reason? So he told him, Lefisha ein madlikin. So now look at the way the question and the answer goes. The Reb Kiva Eger on the side, if you're into this, the Gilyan Ashas, that's Rebbe Akiva Eger, he very often will bring like 20 sources for the same thing. So, but here it's a very important question. What does the Gemara mean? So the Gemara says, Rabbi told Abaye, ein madlikin. So he asked him, why not? So he told him, Lefisha ein madlikin, because you can't light. So what does that mean? So the Pashut shot is, if you look at Rashi, say he meant that since you're not allowed to use the beard oil all by itself, so the medic zeri, you can't use the beard oil at all, even when it's with the good oil, and the good oil is going to be schlepping in the beard oil, because you might forget one day. So one Friday night, you'll use the beard oil with the good oil, that'll be fine. 5 times in a row, it'll be good. Then all of a sudden, you'll forget, you say, oh, look at that, I'm allowed to use all these beard oils on Shabbos by themselves. But Reb Kivega seems to be saying that this is also a pasuk. He brings psukim. Right now we don't have the time to go to all the psukim. That's the derech of learning. That sometimes the answer is the question. Question is why? The answer is because I said so. And we had this the other day. Because that's the halacha. And the Torah sometimes says, I mean, I'll give you one example only from the Gilyan Hashas. If you look in the Gilyan Hashas, Ein Madlikin, he says, Ke'en Zeh, brings a bunch of Gemaras, and then he says, V'chein Lashon HaTorah, Asher Yiyah Boimum Lo Yikrav. Why can't you bring it? Ki Kolisha Shei Boimum Lo Yikrav. The Torah says, don't bring an animal that has a blemish. Why? Because it has a blemish. I just told you it has a blemish. So the answer is, I'm not going to explain it to you. There is a reason. So the Pashut shot over here is that the reason that you can't use a bad oil with a good oil is because you're not allowed to use the bad oil by itself. But the deeper reason is because the Gemara says that's the way it is. Okay? It's a rule. Reb Kivega says it's a rule in the Torah. Sometimes you just have to accept the chok. Okay, let's go further. Now, there's a reason why that's the introduction to the whole sugi of Chanukah, which Mir Hashem we'll see in a couple of minutes. Now, Abaya is going to ask another kasha on Rabbi. So remember, this is his Rebbe, but he's asking kashas on his Rebbe. So we learned in a Bais, Korach davar shemadlikin boy al gabi davar she'emadlikin boy. So just like we talked about mixing a good oil with a bad oil, what if you mix a good wick with a bad wick? So in other words, you take the good wick, davar she'emadlikin boy, a wick that works well, and you wrap it around davar she'emadlikin boy, a bad wick. So the Bais says emadlikin boy, you can't do it. So Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer says, by us, we did it. So we did it. Apparently they did it because they used to wrap around a wick around a nut. An egg is usually a walnut, and then therefore the wick floats like we have with a lot of our wicks, especially for Hanukkah, and they float on top of the oil umadlikin. So anyway, so Abaya asked Rabba, oh, you see that you are allowed to do that. So now Abaya says, Katani Miyas, so he's not finished with his proof yet. He says, Katani Miyas. In any case, you see that Madlikin, that you are allowed to kindle it, you're allowed to light it. So you see, not like you, Rebbe, where you Rebbe, meaning Rabba, said you're not allowed to do it. So Amalei, so Rabbi told him, well, you're a very good Talmud, but you made a mistake. Why did you ask me from the Das Yochid? We usually follow the Chachamim or the Rabbanon. Why did you ask me from Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who says that Madlikin? Why didn't you ask me? Why didn't you bring a proof? Mid Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Sayinu mid the Tanakama. You should have brought me a proof to me from the Tanakama, who did not say that you're allowed to use it. He said, "Ein Madlikin." So Abai said, holy kasha, that's not such a kasha. Because Maisa Rav, what is Maisa Rav? Maisa Rav means that since it said, Reb Shimon Gamliel said that's what we used to do, so it wasn't a theory, it wasn't some kind of a hypothetical thing, it was actual, right? Maisa Rav. So anybody who said Mikamakum Kasha, but still Abaya said it's still a Kasha on Rabbah. So he answered, my level of Hadlik. So what does Reb Shimon allow? Isn't it that you're allowed to light it? So isn't that a kasha on Rabbah? Because Rabbah seemed to say that everybody says he's not allowed to light it, and we see that Reb Shimon only holds that you are allowed to light it. Rabbah says no. So Rabbah says no. It's not what the Bais means. Lo lahakpos. He didn't mean that you're allowed to use this as a wick. It's just like a little, like a little boat in the middle of the candle, and it's keeping it floating. That's all. But it's not really used as a wick, so it's not a kasha on me. So Abai said back to Rabbi, if it's only to make it float, so my time in Tanakama, how come the Tanakama holds that you can't even use it as a float? If we understand you can't use it as a wick, but why in the world can't you use it to make the thing float? So Gemara answers, no. Rabbi says that the brisa means, it will since admit that there's words missing in the brisa. Kula Reb Shimon Gamliel. It's really not a machlokas chachamim and Reb Shimon Gamliel. And as usual, we find v'chasura mechzer v'achikatani. There are words missing in the brisa, and it goes like this: Karach davar shemadlikim by gabi davar shemadlikim by. If you mix something that is a good wick with a bad wick, you're not allowed to use it. But mamedvar mamurim lahadlik, only when you're not allowed to use it is to light it, because one of these days you'll just use the wrong wick. But avalahakpais, but it's like a nut where everybody understands that a nut is not being used as a wick; it's only being used to float the wick. So then it's mutter. Avalahakpais mutter. Why? Sheh. Now this is where we change the brisa. Sheh Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer, not Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer. He says something new. That shin is the telling letter. Sheh Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer. Shel Bais Abba, and by my father's house, so you gabi egos. They used to wrap the wick around the nut so that it would float. Okay, so now so Abai says, okay, fine, I get that. But Abai says, Rabbi, I'll ask you another kasha. So is it really true that you can't add a little bit of oil to a bad oil? So let's say you have oil and fat, and the fat was already melted, or the guts of a fish that's kirvei dogim, the inside, like when you fillet a fish and you have the inside, so you take the inside sheni and already dissolved, so that stuff burns. So that's not really good for burning. But if you put in a little bit of good oil, so the good oil will schlep it along the bad oil. So you see that Rav is against Rabbah, and Rav was earlier. Rav was bigger than Rabbah. So it's a kasha on Rabbah. That's a Bais kasha on Rabbah. Didn't Rav say that you can mix a little bit bad, a little bit of good? So the Gemara says, no. So the oils that Rav is talking about, so they work by themselves. They don't even need the good oil. They do work. So but the oils that I'm talking about, they don't work at all. Why did they make exer that it's not good? Not because that they don't work. Because when it was melted, so it's good. When it was dissolved, it's good. But they were afraid that one of these days you'll use unmelted fat and you'll use the innards that have not dissolved, and that's not going to burn very well. So even if it was already melted and it was dissolved, so the Chacham said you can't use it because next time you're going to use the ones that are not dissolved and that are not melted. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, if you're going to make such a gzeira, why don't we say that, forget about the fact that it's melted or not melted. So we said that you can use this kind of stuff, the fat and the innards, shemen, into which you put a little bit of good shemen. So why don't you make exerim? So because if we allow you to use it with a little bit of oil, so you'll use it even without any oil, and you'll just use the dissolved stuff and the melted stuff, which you didn't even put oil into. So Rabbi says, no, my dear Talmud, you're wrong. He grew for Gzera. There's only one Gzera over here. We're going to make a double Gzera. By the Rabbanans, we never make a double Gzera. So now throughout Shas Rabbi, I'll just mention this very briefly. The answer to this question usually is that it's kula chad gzeira. Over here, Rabbi said, I'm not going to make two gzeiras. But Abaye would seem to hold over here that it's all one gzeira. So in other words, there is a machlokas Abaye and Rabbi, but it's very, very kind of delicate and it's subtle. Make a bracha.
Amen.
Now the Gemara goes on. Tani Rambam Bechama. We learned Psilas Shemar and Shomer Chachamim. Emadlikim Bem b'Shabbos. Emadlikim Bem b'Mikdash. So the Mikdash seems to mean you're not allowed to use them in the menorah if you're not allowed to use them on Shabbos in a regular lamp. Why? Because if the wicks and the oils, so we're talking about over here both. You notice Psilas Shemanim. So the reason for both of them was that they don't burn well. The wicks and the oil don't burn well for different reasons. Because in the menorah there's a special halacha that it has to burn tamid. So what does tamid mean? It has to burn continually, and it doesn't need any help. You don't have to kind of prop it up and make it good. So Rami Bechama said the Bais, but then he himself explained it. What does that mean? If you want to know where this is in Rashi in Chumash, it's the first Rashi, or maybe one of the first Rashis in Parshas Baloischa. That when you light the menorah, so you have to have a wick and oil that it's going to burn all by itself. It's not going to need any help later on. It doesn't have to be brought up. Baal Loischa means to be brought up. That's why this is in Baal Loischa. So now the Gemara has a kasha on the Bais. So now we learned in the Mishnah.
It's interesting to me. It's interesting that they don't simply use the rule that Einan Niyus Makom Ashiris, that you only use the best materials.
Oh, very good. Right. That's a very good point. So it seems that over here we do lechatchila, but the question is, like even in the Beis Hamikdash, every once in a while they would run out of materials. It's a good kasha. Lechatchila, you have to use the best stuff. So Tanan, we learned in
side where we say that that we're careful with the money.
Yeah, but that's only outside the Beis Hamikdash. Usually, us in our private houses, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, "Let me save you a couple of bucks." But in the Beis Hamikdash, by the way, in a shul also, theoretically, shuls very often don't have money. But that's because it's a shul, it's an individual thing. There's 100 Jews, 500 Jews, but there's a limit. But the Beis Hamikdash belongs to Klal, so there's never any limits. And that's what there's no Kadosh Baruch Hu chas l'mamayim shel Yisrael. And
well, that's the excuse why some communities put a lot of money into their shul physically.
Yeah, because no, you're all correct. Because but what David is saying is because the Navi Yecheskel says v'ehi lahem migdash ma'at. The Beis Hamikdash is the Beis Hamikdash, and then there's a microcosm of the Beis Hamikdash, which is a shul. Every shul is a mini. We'll see this halacha in a couple of minutes in the daf. So now
the bells of the Beis Hamikdash is a monster. It looks like a real.
So it's okay. Yeah, no.
People gave like half their life savings for it.
I remember right after they built, we were on one of our early shul tours, and some of the guys didn't like it. It was like gold, a real gold, up there, a block of gold right in the front. If you go there, you'll still see it. So some of the guys said to the bells of people, like, "What are you guys doing? Like, Mashiach's not here yet." So they answered this from the bells of Rebbe. What you were all saying is that the Beis Hamikdash, is limitless. And this is the Migdash Ma'at. They even called the Beis Hamikdash in Eretz Yisrael. Now,
supposed to pick up and go to Eretz Yisrael after, so you might as well make it nice.
Yeah.
About the Knesset.
Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah. By the way, what you said, Yitzi, is a famous story. I'm sorry, I got to tell you, it's a great line. Reb Meir Shapiro, everybody probably knows, had tremendous trouble raising funds to build his yeshiva, the Chachmei Lublin. God willing, we get there. It's on our itinerary to go when we go to Europe, Mirz Hashem, to see the yeshiva in Lublin. So anyway, what happened was, he built a lot of stuff, and then nobody wanted to pay for the floor. Everybody wants the aron, the menorah, but nobody wanted to pay for a floor. So he was talking to a very rich guy. The guy had enough money to build the whole thing by himself, but he only gave for the fancy stuff. So he said to him like this, he said, when Mashiach comes, so this building is going to be known as your building, Yaakov Schwartz's building. So then they're going to take a look at the dirt floor. It's going to be disgusting. It'll be in Eretz Yisrael. They're going to say, who didn't pay for this? Yaakov Schwartz. So he said that because right now it's in Lublin, but eventually Mashiach comes. He's going to pick up the whole Yeshiva Chachmei Lublin. He's going to dump it in Yerushalayim. Drop, and it's going to drop from the sky. So you have to make everything beautiful. Okay, so now let's go now into the halachas of Simchas Bais HaShe'eva. Then we're going to do Chanukah. So the Gemara says like this. So now we learned in a Mishnah in Sukkah about Simchas Bais HaShe'eva, Mibeloi Michnasei Kohanim U'Me'amneim, when the Kohanim wore out their big day kahuna. They used to wear them every day. After a little while, they got worn out. You're not allowed to give it to a guy just to wear at work or to play ball. So because they're holy, as we'll soon see in a little while, Malam B'Kadish Ve'Maridin, you're not allowed to reduce the kedusha of a thing. So what did they do? They used to tear it up. Mehen Madlikin, and they used to light the fire, it seems, for the Beis Hamikdash, and this was made out of wool. So they made wicks, and they used to light the fire, apparently, for in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Chari now allowed to use it for Shabbos. So the Gemara thought that this is for the menorah. So the Gemara said, no, Simchas Bais HaShe'eva is shiny. It's not for the menorah, it's for the Simchas Bais HaShe'eva. So since it's only a D'Rabbanan, so it's mutter. So we're not worried that people are going to use the wrong kind of wicks. So Toshma, the Gemara brought another proof.
Could the Rav just for a moment explain again? I forgot the reason why they wore shatnez.
So they wore shatnez because it's like we said before. Why they wear shatnez? Because they wore shatnez. Because it's a pasuk. The pasuk says that they wear shatnez. But the idea is that shatnez in and of itself, a private person can't wear it. I mean, just on piashkafa because they're not on that madrega. But shatnez is a very high madrega, and therefore the kohanim, when they're doing the avodah in the holiest place in the world, Beis Hamikdash, they can wear shatnez. So over here they taka wore wool and linen. We'll see that in a minute. So they wore taka. The Gemara says Tashma. We bring a proof to this. What's the proof? That they could even use it in the menorah. So the Tani Rabbi Bar Masna, Big Day Kahuna Shabalu, so it says like this, when the Big Day Kahuna wore out, so what do? Mafkina said they used to tear it up. Umehen oisim psilois la migdash, they used them for the base of migdash. Versus my love the klayim, so doesn't it seem, because the Kohanim used to wear, it was a machlekes, but the avnate, the gartel, that big gartel that they wore, the sash, I think it's called in English. So the avnate, was made out of a wool and linen and wool. So that was shatnez, as David just mentioned. So anyway, so l'chari this kasha Rami bar Chama's brisa, where it says lo they did not use that. They used the ones from linen. For it wasn't from flax. It wasn't wool and flax. It was the one of linen, which linen you're allowed to use because it burns well. Flax does not. Linen does. But it is shatnez, yes. So, by the way, this is the principle also of recycling a mitzvah. So, for instance, let's say this it was used in the pants and the clothing of the kohanim. So you don't just throw it away; you use it up. So that's why I just want to mention this in the Gay coming up in a couple of days. Although we're not going to do it probably, but a lot of people keep what?
It's considered tashmishe mitzvah.
Yeah, but this is not just not just tashmishim. For instance, a real mitzvah. So I'll give you an example. The lulav. A lot of people keep the lulavim and the hadassim around, and they burn the chametz with it. So a lot of people think that you're supposed to burn the lulav. That's absolutely wrong. The lulav didn't do anything wrong. They were punishing it by burning it. But on the contrary, we recycle the mitzvah of lulav to do the mitzvah of biur chametz. Not going to do it this year. L'chayr. Maybe some people are going to do it. I don't know. I heard that the village of Lawrence is reconciled to the idea that some people are going to. They even told them which buckets to buy, some number 9 bucket or something to burn the chametz in. To be very careful. But in general, they're kind of trying to dissuade people from making a private burning. And I'm speaking for myself also, recommended that you flush down the 10 pieces and not make a fire.
Could you burn it in your barbecue?
Oh yeah, theoretically, absolutely, you can.
Just light it up.
Yeah, you can.
Don't use the grill on Pesach.
Yeah, no, these people, they're not going to use it. Exactly. Because some people did kasher their grills. Now, Rav Huna,
so instead of fires, they're going to have sewer backups, basically.
Yeah, like 10,000 people flushing at the same time, right? Rav Huna, Psilas, Shemanim, Shomer, Chachamim, Ein Madlikim Em Shabbos, Ein Madlikim Em Chanukah. This is the first reference to Chanukah, Rabbi say, and that gets us into the whole sugya of Chanukah. So those wicks and oils that you can't use for Shabbos, so this first opinion is you can't use them on Chanukah, Bein B'Shabbos, Bein B'Choil, not only on Shabbos, but even it's not good to light the menorah because it's not going to burn well. We'll see in a minute. Rava, my time of Rav Huna, why did Rav Huna say this? So the reason is because he holds because Kavsa Zakukla. So if the Chanukah light goes out before a half an hour, you're supposed to burn it for a half an hour. So and you're also allowed to use it. Now we hold that you're not allowed to benefit from the menorah, and we even say it. That's what we say. But in the time of the Gemara, it was still a machlokes. So that's the first opinion. The second opinion is Rav Chisda Amar Madlikim Ben B'Choil. No, you can use it during the week. What's the problem? Avalei b'Shabbos. Just like you can't use a bad wick on a regular Friday night, you can't use a bad wick or a bad oil Friday night Shabbos Chanukah because we're worried. Why would we not be worried on Shabbos Chanukah? It's the same as any other Shabbos. Because he holds kavsa. If it goes out, so then he holds that. Let's go to Amud Bais. Ein zakukla, you don't have to rekindle it. So therefore, we're worried that people are going to go and they argue about. I can't see by this. And what are they going to do? They're going to rekindle it, and it's going to be on Shabbos. That's the second opinion. The third opinion is Amar Reb Zera, Amar of Masna, V'amila Amar Reb Zera, Amar Rav. So others said the name of Rav. Psilos Shemanim Shomer Chachamim and Madlikim B'Em Shabbos, Madlikim B'Em Chanukah. You're allowed to light them on Chanukah. Bein B'Chol B'Em Shabbos. By the way, the Chassidish Rebbes, including I believe it was the Baditchev of the Kedushas Levi, say that this is just a kind of like a homiletic shot, a drush, but it's a very nice drush. That even people that don't get impressed by Shabbos, in other words, you're trying to be makar of them, and they're not getting it, they're not becoming from. Bring them Chanukah, bring them to your Chanukah menorah, bring them to your house on Chanukah. Today we can't do any of this, but you bring them to your house on Chanukah, and they will become illuminated. They will become nislaiv. Their fire will burn. Okay, just a nice shot. Now, so what does this pshat mean? Amar B'Yirmiyah, my time of the Rav, how come Rav holds like this? Because he holds kavsa ein zakukla. You don't have to rekindle it. So that's why he holds that it's not going to be a problem. You can light it because you're not going to rekindle it anyway. So you just let it go. It's going to burn out. It'll burn out. It's not a problem. Amru Rabbanan kamed Rabbi mishmei Rabbi Yirmiyah, but they said this over for loy kibla. Abaye did not accept it the first time, but he also Ravin. So now there were a few people who used to go back and forth between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel. So the first time they said it to Abaye in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, Abaye did not accept it for whatever reason when he was younger. So he also Ravin, but many years later, when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael, Amru Rabbanan kamed Abaye mishmed Rabbi Yochanan. This time they said it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, whom he did accept apparently, and V'kibla he accepted it. Amar Sabaya said, "Oi, Izakai, if I was worthy, if I was Zaycha, Gemirte L'Shmaitza Meikara, I would have accepted it the first time." So Gemara says, "What's the difference?" Vagamra, he learned it. Who cares? Earlier or later. So there's a very famous Gemara. Because Gemara says, "Nafkamina Legirsa de Yankasa." If you learned it when you're young, you're going to remember it better. But if you learn something when you're old, Monday you learned it, Tuesday you forgot it. Okay. Where are we? What's your name? Right. Okay, fine. Now, Ukov saying Zakukla. So now the Gemara says, is it really true that anybody, even Rav and Rav Chisda, hold that you don't have to relight the menorah or a miniu? Didn't we have a stira? It says mitzvasa. Really, the mitzvah is mishatishka chama achatichla regel min hashuk. So when do you have to light the menorah? So there's all machlokes is what this means. But Pashup Pshat is from shkia, from sunset, until there's a certain time when people are not in the outdoors anymore. So it won't be pursuing Nisa anymore. So Morah says, my love, the Yaakov, so isn't this the case that even if it went out, that you have to relight it? So this is a proof that you don't madlik law, so you have to relight it. So it says, that's not the case. The adlik madlik, that if you didn't light it at all from shkia when you were supposed to light it, so now you have till tichlo regel min hashuk. That's one shot. Or v'inami l'shiura, it's telling you how long it has to burn. In other words, it has to burn from shkia till tichlo regel min hashuk, which is roughly about a half an hour. So now the Gemara explains that how long is that? Until the Talmudai are not in the street anymore. The Talmudai were the last people. Like now, there's nobody in the streets. But when you have in the olden days, you had these push carts and peddlers, so they used to stay out a little bit longer till the sun mamish went down and a little bit beyond till the last rays of the sun were gone, and they could still sell a couple of items. So after that, there's no presume nisa, because what are you going to light the menorah for? Nobody. So today, the emissaries, we're going to see this in the Gemara in a moment. I just wanted to mention it now, that today we don't light for the outside, we light for the inside. And that's why there's many halachas. For instance, let's say a guy comes home from a trip late Hanukkah night, one of the nights of Hanukkah. It's 2:00 in the morning, but somebody's still up in the house. You can light the menorah. There's nobody in the street. It doesn't matter. We don't light. The proof that we don't light today for the street is that very often we're on the 32nd floor in Manhattan, someplace in a penthouse or whatever it is, and you're still lighting the menorah. Who sees that? The guy in the plane? The answer is we're lighting for ourselves. Now, Tanur Rabbi, we learned in the Bais, mitzvahs Chanukah. What's the main mitzvah of Chanukah? Ner ishu beisa.
So, Rabbi Feitman?
Yes.
But that is not, is that the common accepted concept behind Presume Nisa, or just by Chanukah?
So
whenever we throw around the idea, okay, Presume Nisa, is it always for the personal, or is it sometimes yes?
So I'll give you an example. We're coming up to Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach the Seder. So we drink the Arba Kaisis. The Arba Kaisis, it says in Halacha, is Presumi Nisa. Presumi Nisa has a special Halacha that even a poor person, first daf in Arba Psachim has to get Arba Kaisis, because Presumi Nisa is one of the biggest Derabbanans. And there's nobody in the house, other than family and immediate people. So nevertheless, you're drinking for Presumi Nisa. So you see that Presumi Nisa can be just for ourselves, not just Hanukkah. I'm just answering your question. It's a good kasha. Okay?
Like Kiddush Hashem.
Yeah, like Kiddush Hashem.
People think Kiddush Hashem only means like a million people have to be watching.
No, it's for us,
really,
right?
It's yourself or your immediate.
Right, very good. Now, so this is the famous Gemara. Ner Ishu Beise. Lichatchila, the original takana of Ner Chanukah was one candle every night. V'mahadrin, now I'm saying over like Rashi and some Rishonim. Obviously, there's going to be more. Maybe when as we go through the sugi of Hanukkah, we'll be elucidating this a little bit better. So the second madreg is v'mahadrin is ner l'chol echad v'yechad. So this is machlokes Rishonim, but many Rishonim hold means that the head of the household lights a candle for every member of his family. So there's 5 people there, so he lights 5 every single night. That's what we do. Is Beishamay Oimrim Rishon Madlik Shmoina on the first day lights 8. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Beisil Oimrim Yom Rishon Madlik Achas. The first night 1. We'll explain in a minute what their machlekes is all about. The Gemara says, but we'll add to it. So now the Gemara says 2 reasons why. What's their disagreement? Amar Ula Plika Batre Ma'amaroyim B'Marava. There were 2 Amoroyim in Eretz Yisrael. They disagreed about why Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel disagree. Rabbi Yossi bar Avim, Rabbi Yossi bar Zvida, that was their names. So Chadam, we don't know who said what. Chadam at times the Beis Shammai's reason is because Keneged Yomim HaNechnosim. As each day comes in, so you acknowledge the day. The first day there's 8 days to come. The second day there's 7 days to come. The third day there's 6 days to come, etc. The time of the Beis Hillel, why does Beis Hillel hold that you go from 1 through 8? So the reason is Keneged Yomim HaYotzim, because there's new days. Every day is a new day. I'll explain in a minute. Some of you know the pshat already. That's one pshat. Why the Beis Shammai hold that you count down? Connected Pari Achag. The Pari Achag on Sukkot. So we start off with 70 parim, 70 bulls, and then we go down all the way to one. The time of the Beis Hillel, the Malam Bakodesh. Remember we mentioned before that you never go down in Kedusha. Beis Hillel holds you have to go up. Beis Hillel holds you can't do like Beis Shammai going down. So the halacha of going up is always the overriding consideration. You never go down in Kedusha. So Amar Rabba Baba Chanan Rabbi Yochanan, Shnei Zakeim Hoya B'tzidain. So there were two Zakenim, Echad also Beis Shammai, Echad also Beis Hillel, Zenois and Talmud Dvarav, Keneged Parei Achag. So the one that held like Beis Shammai, so he said, oh, Parei Achag, you go down. The Echad, and the other one also gave his opinion why the Mount Makodesh name Marin. So this was an actual case where two Zakenim, one was from the Zakenim of Beis Shammai, one was from the Zakenim of Beis Hillel. They gave these reasons. Now we know that these are the correct reasons. That's what apparently the Gemara means. Tanaban will learn a Raisa. So lechatchila, this is what they do in Eretz Yisrael today, that you put it on the doorway, mibachutz, outside. But if you live upstairs, you can't put it outside. So at this point, we're still holding that Pesum Enis is for the outside. So now we come to how we light, even on the inside. But when it's dangerous to light it outside, because the goyim are looking for Jews to kill, so just put it on your table in the middle of the house. Nobody on the outside should see it. V'dayo and yaitza. So Amarava tzorch ner acheres l'mishtamish la'oira. So, but when you have to light inside, so you have to have another ner. So there'll be obviously in the olden days they didn't have electric. So let's say you're lighting a couple of neros for Chanukah. How's anybody supposed to see that it's for Suminisa even in your own house? So therefore, that's why you need one for whatever you're using in the house, so you can read and you can walk around. And then the other ones will be for Chanukah. The Ika Medura, but let's say you have like a big furnace, you have Baruch Hashem, like a separate light, like we have electric lights. So then it's okay. The Adam Chashavu, but a Chashav, a person always has candles burning, even if he has a furnace. Afagav the Ika Medura. So by him, it really wouldn't be obvious that the Ner Chanukah is for Pesumi Nisa, because he always has a light burning. So if Ner Acheres, so you have a Ner Acheres. Okay, now, my Chanukah. This is the famous Gemara. Why do we celebrate Chanukah? So the Gemara says, the Tanur we learned in a Braisa, the Chofei b'Kislev Yom the Chanukah on the 25th of Kislev, so is the days of Chanukah. Now, a lot of Mefarshim point out, it says Yomei, plural. The 25th is only one day. So some say that on the first day of Hanukkah, that was the biggest nace because there was only a little bit of oil, and as soon as it burnt extra, that was already the biggest miracle. After that, everything was like, came from that. Anyway, Timnaya Inun, so there's altogether 8 days. What is Chanukah all about? You can't say a hesped, even if somebody died. You can't fast, even if somebody has yard side. When the Greeks came into the Heichel, so they bedafka contaminated everything. They made it tameh. But when the Chashmonaim came along, now there's a very interesting diuk over here. I'm just throwing out some ideas. There was no Malchus based Chashmonai yet. Later, they established the kingdom of the Chashmonaim. The Ramban didn't like it, etc. But there was no Malchus. So it seems that this seems to be like the Rambam, not like the Ramban, that ratified that it was okay for them to be the kings because they were already royal people. But there's other pshatim as well. My Rabbi has a pshat. What does it mean, Malchus, at this point? Anyway, Badkut, so they went searching. They only found one pach of shemen. So it had the seal of the Kohen Gadol on it. That meant that it was tahor, and they were allowed to use it. So everybody asked the kasha, what does the Kohen Gadol have to do with anything? The Kohen Gadol wasn't the one that lit the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. The menorah was lit by regular kahanim. So how come there was a vial, that little pach that belonged to the Kohen Gadol? So the Chedusha Rim says a beautiful pshat. It says really it was the private oil of the Kohen Gadol, because the Kohen Gadol had to bring a carbon every single day. Everybody else has to bring a carbon once when they become the Kohen, when they start doing the mitzvah of Kuhuna, and the Kohen Gadol had to bring a minchas chinuch every single day. So his mincha had to be oil, but it didn't have to be a pure olive oil. But he was a machmir on himself. He did his special mitzvah, so he was mahader. So that's why we have mahadrin mina mahadrin, because of, number one, the fact that Kohen Gadol, he didn't have to have pure olive oil, Shem and Zayin Zach, but he did it anyway. So anyway, the second thing was that they found this miracle oil that was munach. The only oil that was left was with the signet ring of the Kohen Gadol, and they used it for Chanukah. So what did they do? There was only enough for one day. Nasa by Nes, a miracle happened with Vidliku Menish Shmonis Yomim, and it lit for 8 days. L'shon Acheres the following year, Kavim v'Osim Yomim Tovim, they established it for Yom Tif. Now every word over here has tremendous drushes, but Chanukah drushes. Now let's go to the Gemara Tanan Hasan. We learned in a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah Bava Kama. Let's say that there's a blacksmith and he's banging the anvil, and a spark goes out, the hizik, and it caused the fire. So chayiv, the blacksmith is chayiv because he should have been careful that no sparks were coming out from his blacksmith shop and go someplace else. It went out of the shop and it made a fire. However, gamel shaton pishnon. So let's say you have a camel that's got flax piled up to like the 2 stories high, as we'll see in a minute. It's going to Rosh Hashanah. So that's okay. He's allowed to go to Rosh Hashanah in the public place. Why not? But then that flax, it kind of like was tipping into the blacksmith shop, and inside the shop, doesn't have to be a blacksmith now, because everybody has a light in their shop. And we're not talking about electricity, we're talking about fire. V'hidlik esabira, and then the flax started burning, and it burned down the house. So balagam chayv. So now the guy that was riding his camel, and he wasn't careful that the flax shouldn't go into other people's property, because you're allowed to have a light in your shop. So then the owner of the camel is chayiv. However, but if the nair was put outside the shop, so then chayiv shouldn't have put the nair outside. So Rabbi Yehudah b'nei Chanukah potter. But on Chanukah, when in the old days everybody used to put a menorah outside, so then everybody else has to watch out for the other guy's menorah. Amar Ravina, so Ravina said, this teaches us, you have to put it within 10 tefachim of the ground. I'm going to bring you a raya, Rabbi say, from pictures. If you're into pictures of Rebbes around Chanukah, you'll see that all the big Rebbes have a menorah, beautiful big menorah. Where's it sitting? On the ground. Why don't they put it high on a table and then everybody can see it? The answer is because it's supposed to be within 10 tefachim. So they're always very careful. It shouldn't be higher than 40 inches off the ground because of this Gemara. Within 10 tefachim, 40 inches.
So what about the menorah in the shul?
What about the menorah in the shul? Oh, so one second, the shul is different. You'll see in a minute. But this
that poor guy has to stand on a chair to light it. What's his name?
Mr. Gross. I just spoke to him.
I shouldn't make fun of short people, but.
Okay. Because listen to Gemara. So if you could put it higher than 10 tefachim, so the nizik should say to the person that owns the store, you have a Chanukah menorah. You should have put it so high that no camel could tip its flax or whatever it's carrying into your shop. So, but since you see that really the nizik wins over here, so you see that Ner Chanukah is supposed to be within 10 tefachim of the ground. So Morah says, the Dilma, maybe, no, it's not a reason. Because if you're going to tell the guy that has a store, you can't put it here, you can't put it there, so he's just not going to light it. It's too much trouble to light the menorah. So Memela, so maybe that's the reason. So it's not really a proof to anything. So, just in this Gemara, we'll just take 1 second. I know I'm a little bit over, but
so why do you put it
within
10 tefachim of the ground?
So today the emes is that the Rebbes, you're absolutely right. They taka have a menorah that they keep on the ground. We also keep it on the ground, but it's a little bit higher than 10 tefachim. But l'maisa in the shul, it's nobody's makayim the mitzvah. It's only pursuing nisa that it's Hanukkah, so we have to light the menorah. Nobody's Mekayim the mitzvah. But the Rebbe, that's in his house, or even in his shul, that's where he's being Mekayim the mitzvah. So you have to keep it under 40 tefachim. Not 40.
Why?
Shechiyanu in shul, you could say it again at home.
What's on time? One time, David? What?
Why keep it under 40? What's the issue? The Gemara doesn't say that.
So
What?
that's a good question. There's two reasons. Either because it's supposed to be like the Beis Hamikdash menorah. So there's two dinim throughout Chanukah. We'll talk about this Me'ez Hashem Motzei Shabbos. So if there's a set of time, I have a little bit of problem with the time. So the menorah has to be the Beis Hamikdash also. It's sat on the ground. So that's why we leave it on the ground. That's why the Rebbe's put it on the ground, and we usually within 10 tefachim. And the other reason is that if it's higher than 10 tefachim, so we don't really see it well. That's the interesting thing. Remind me of Motzei Shabbos. So I want to go into this halacha a little bit more, but I just want to leave you with one interesting shot. So what about Bisman Sakana? So the Gemara said that we don't put it out. So how come today, mostly we're not in a Sakana, we're in good countries. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and others say that when the Gemara said Meniach Shulchan V'Dayoy, says Shem is Oz Nishtana Din Lotzes Gam Anochal Shulchan. So Shlomo Zalman says, he's not the only one, but I quoted now from Shlomo Zalman, the Tzaddik Livracha, that Klal Yisrael is perennially in sakana. So if it wasn't in Spain, it was in Portugal. If it wasn't in Portugal, we got kicked out of England. There's always sakana. So once Klal Yisrael had this halacha that you're allowed to light the presuming is on the table, v'dayo. So if Shlomo Zalman's diuk is dayo is that's it. From now on, it's indoors. So we light as much as possible by the window. Okay, fine. That's the original takana. But anybody's allowed to light inside because we're lighting for our family and sometimes even for ourselves. Let's say somebody's le'olenu completely alone, like these days. We're dealing with, by the way, the biggest shaila. And I'll tell you in a minute that we had a phone conference last night. There are so many Nebuch people now that have nobody in the world, various almanas and grushas and just people that don't have anybody. They're going to have a seder all alone. So usually they go to somebody, and now nobody wants them. Then the doctor tells them don't go anywhere. So what can we do? So the truth is, the doctor said they're going to try to help us, and they're going to be done. They're going to make a decision on each case. How bad is it? When were they positive? How long have they been in quarantine? And we're leaving this to the doctors to make decisions. But these are very, very heart-rending, gut-wrenching decisions that we have to make. So speaking of which, Rabbi say, I'm pretty sure we had a meeting last night. We're meeting every 2 days now because the situation changes so rapidly, and we're hoping that one of these days the numbers will be much better. We can go back to shul. Right now the numbers are not better. They're not worse, but they're not better. So we're not going back to shul yet.